Hello, I'm James Phelps.
And I'm Oliver Phelps, guys. Welcome back to the Normal, Not Normal podcast.
And thank you very much for joining us this week. And I'm very excited to share this one with you all.
So, guys, for those of you who are new to this, in this series, we're talking to some of our favourite people to find out what normal means to them and to ask the question, does normal even exist?
That's right, and today's guests are Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan. You might know them as Pippin and Merry from The Lord of the Rings.
People have often said that our characters in Potter were a bit like theirs in Lord of the Rings, you know, the cheeky chappies and often bring in humour to some very dark bits. So I'm very, very excited to find that their bond on the screen is as strong in real life.
Very much. And we want to find out what it was like for them on set filming. We heard they're quite the pranksters. Now, as you can probably tell, we can relate to this quite well.
Yes, and since Lord of the Rings, they've both gone on to do some amazing projects that I'm sure we'll hear about. And they've also started their own podcast called The Friendship Onion. A great name, and we really recommend listening to it.
Very much. So, joining us from their studio in Los Angeles, here is Billy and Dom.
Chaps, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you both getting on?
Good, yeah. It's been a good morning up to now, and then I've just bumped into my good friend here, Dom.
Hello.
And we've joined you guys, so here we are. It's been a good day up to now.
You said how you guys are good mates. Can you remember the first time you guys ever met?
Yeah, it was almost like it was yesterday, wasn't it?
But it wasn't, Dom.
It wasn't. We've told this story so many times that, in fact, I've heard, not that I'm comparing myself to Paul McCartney, but I've yesterday. But I have.
Oh, you're not anything like him.
No,
Carry on.
But I did hear Paul McCartney say in an interview that he was asked when he first met John Lennon, and he said he's told this story so many times now that he's not sure what is true and what isn't because it's become its own monster. But from my recollection, I showed up last out of the four hobbits, and the three lads had been there for a while, just going through the general works that I'm sure you guys went through on Harry Potter, wardrobe fittings, makeup checks, script readings, gym sessions, all that kind of stuff. I showed up, crazy jet lag from Manchester to New Zealand, which I think is about as long a flight as you can have.
Yeah,
to do
32 hours it used to take me.
32 hours. I mean, and you've got breaks in between them. So I was a little, kind of all over the place, and then immediately got pulled into social events with you and Sean and Elijah. And I had very short hair, shorter than your hair right now.
Yeah, it was shaved, I remember that.
And everyone was so welcoming and friendly and cool. The interesting thing about the Hobbits, and I would include the beautiful late Ian Holm in this, and Andy to a certain extent, because obviously Andy was a Hobbit, and then kind of Gollum went off on his own path.
Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis, of course. They all kind of share this open, friendly, curious kind of energy for life, and that's what happened when I met the three other lads. Everyone's just like, great, let's go surfing, let's jump on a bike, let's all go to the gym together, let's try out this new restaurant. Everyone's just perpetually in a good mood.
If you don't mind, James and Ollie, I'd like to dive in a little deeper into the memory and how the human brain works.
Oh, that's because Billy's been reading a book about the body.
Yes,
and he's probably on the brain chapter right now. Is that what's happening?
Dom was kind enough to buy me a book by Bill Bryson.
Bryson,
yeah. Bill Bryson called The Body, and it basically skims across. When I say skims, it does like a chapter on the brain, a chapter on the digestive system, blah blah.
Brilliant.
And I was reading the brain part last night or the night before, and it was talking about memory and how people's memories are nowhere near as good as you think they are. And they did this experiment where they took some people and they took photos of them and photoshopped them into Disney World when they were young, 4, 5, 6 years old, showed them the photograph and said, do you remember this day? And they would say, oh yeah, I remember, I met my cousin there, my father took me, we spent 2 days, blah, blah, blah. And then when they finished it, they would tell them that they have never been to Disney World. Mm. They had all these memories of being there. They could talk about the whole day. They could talk about what rides they went on. And the people doing the experiment had picked people who had never been to Disney World.
Wait. So are you saying we weren't in the Lord of the Rings? Is that what you?
I was going to say, or maybe you landed and they were like completely off with you and thought, oh no, we need to rectify this.
Yeah.
And like maybe I don't know, maybe like on the rap party you had a photoshopped image or something like that, diving or something.
Exactly, we don't know, Ollie. Nothing is for sure anymore after I read that chapter. Isn't that crazy?
Imagine.
That's incredible, though. That's incredible.
My parents bought me that book for my birthday, and I remember reading it, and probably about 10 times reading it, thinking, Billy will love this.
Yeah,
it'll blow his mind.
It really has blown my mind.
Do you think that because of, like, obviously you guys meeting on the film set and then obviously playing the characters what had such close bonds together anyway, do you think that in playing the roles impacted your organic friendship as it is now? That was almost like the bedrock for it?
I mean, it definitely helps because Billy and I spent more time with each other than any other actor that we were with. And alongside Elijah and Sean, we probably spent more time with each other than any of the actors did with any other actors. Does that make sense?
Wow,
what I mean?
Yeah, that was well done.
Like Merry and Pippin and Frodo and Sam are such a twosome of the collective that, you know, someone like Ian McKellen and Viggo spent a lot of time with each other, but not quite as much time as is on paper on the script for Merry and Pippin and Frodo and Sam. So we spent a lot of time with each other. We obviously traveled together. Billy and I kind of like the same things. We love restaurants. We like playing pool. We like surfing. We like going to the gym. We when we were first in New Zealand, the first ever series of Big Brother had come out. And Billy's lovely sister sent him, this is how old we are now, sent him VHS tapes, right?
Yeah, every week or every 2 weeks or whatever, she would send the latest Big Brothers. And Dom would come round to my house and we'd just sit and watch that. It was brilliant.
We were obsessed. So we enjoyed each other's company outside of work. We spent a lot of time at work together. So of course it's a bonding experience. And of course you're both tired. You're both challenged by work. You're both challenged by the travel and all that kind of stuff. Even if Billy and I weren't necessarily spending as much time with each other outside of work, it would have been formative anyway. Because I've worked with actors who, you know, nice people, but they're not the way that I feel about Billy. And you do find a bond because, you know, you're in the trenches together.
And if you don't mind, James and Ollie, I'd like to go a bit deeper into the human body
yes.
here.
The spleen.
Which is something I've thought about as an actor, is how much does your body know that you're acting? You know, like, so many times leading ladies and leading men will fall in love on a set or on a stage show, or because they're playing people who fall in love, you know? So how much is your body thinking, wow, wait a minute, I'm in love with this person because I say it every night on stage. So me and Dom, not saying we fell in love, but, you know, we went through these adventures. We were on horseback together and we had to say goodbye to each other. And I wonder how much your body knows that it's real or not real, you know?
I'm always fascinated by how other actors, their styles and their methods and how they go about the craft. Do you guys have similar to the process, or are you different? Or like, what can I ask? What you guys each, how you prepare for a role, and whether working together on projects, you kind of do the same thing. I don't really
know Billy's style or method or craft. I've not really asked him. I feel like on set you're so consumed with trying to do your job personally, and it is quite overwhelming. Myself, I just always consider the script to be the place that you can solve almost any problem that you might have as an actor. So if I look back on my younger days of maybe being a little bit more slapdash with the way that I approach stuff, you know, I've got a big day on Thursday, but that's fine. I can go out on Tuesday and I'll get to it Wednesday afternoon, and then you kind of look through it, but then you've been busy and Man United are playing and, you know, all that kind of stuff. If I look back on those days, I think, well, that's the reason why maybe on that day you were confused as to what was going on, or or you weren't sure, or you didn't think that you did anything that interesting, or you weren't really happy with your work. It's for me, as I've got older and older, all about preparation. So I'm just constantly reading the script and playing around with the script. So on any given night, if I've got a big scene, let's say the night before, I'll come in immediately, have a look at what's going on, look through the script, see if there's anything particular I need to put my eye on, and then I'll go do something else, which invariably is cooking, because I'll usually cook for myself at night. And while I'm cooking, I'll just think, can I recall almost everything that's going on in that scene? He meets the girl. Yeah. They say that they found this particular clue. They jump on a train. She says this, he says that. And do I have it in my head? And if I don't, go back and have a look. And then from there, I come in, I eat my dinner, I have a look again. And then before I go to bed, obviously, I make sure that I have most of the problematic stuff or most of the stuff in my head. Turn the lights off at night after getting ready to listen to a podcast, because I'm obsessed with podcasts. And I'll see if I can recall it just before I go to sleep again, and how much I've got. And usually when I wake up in the morning, I have it, and then I let it go. Just try to think about who's driving me to work and what's going on. Have breakfast, go through the works, and then start to kind of zone in a little bit more, whether my fellow actors have other things that they bring into the table. I don't particularly get involved in any kind of method kind of idea. To be honest, I think this method approach is just the reason for actors to be on set. I genuinely do.
Yes.
Unless you're amazing, unless you're Daniel Day-Lewis, unless you're Brando, unless you're someone incredible, iconic, Meryl Streep, whomever you can name. Because most of the time, the method people are not saying, well, I was playing a philanthropist nun, so I went method. So I had to be super nice to everyone and super kind and caring, donated all my money. It's always like, well, I was playing a bad guy, so I thought I'd be a bad guy for a few weeks. And you're like, you're just a bad person who's leaning back on the excuse.
Yeah, exactly. That's just an excuse to be horrible, isn't it?
So I try as hard as I can to maintain a sense of play on the set. I try and keep it light and airy, chatting to the cameraman, chatting to the crew, having some fun, playing jokes, keep it light, and do it and forget it. I've not watched anything that I've done for years now, for a long time. I mean, if it's on the TV, I'll might watch it for a couple of minutes and then get rid of it. But I've not seen Lost, Lord of the Rings, anything in X-Men, anything that I've done for, I don't know, a good 12, 15 years or so. Once it's done, for me, it's done. I've done it. I had the moment. It's finished. Next.
You're very good.
Thanks, William.
I watch something that you've done virtually every night.
Oh, thanks, William.
Before I go to bed.
You know what's interesting? I will watch the podcast, because Billy and I have to give notes on the podcast.
Yeah.
I find it much easier. I did a nature show for a few years. I find it much easier to watch stuff where it's me, Dom, because I think, well, that's just me. I'm not going to do anything strange. But when it's me, the performer, even if I'm delighted with what went on the day, I'm only 60% happy. If I watch it, I'm 35% happy. So why should I watch it? It's done. It's over. Next. Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, it was good. It was in depth.
Mm-hmm. Give us a chapter about that body book again.
Yeah, I'm sure you could know in the book, like which hemisphere the subconscious part of the explanation there comes into. Because I suppose that's what it is, isn't it? Like the subconscious when you're reading it and then doing something else, that it's getting further and further back there.
What about you, Bills? What's your method?
My method, I think I probably took most of the ways I approach a character from drama school, because I still do with a script the same as I did at drama school. I very, very simply take everything that's a fact about the character, because you can't change that then, If it says, he walks with a limp, he walks with a limp. You can't take that away. You can't make that decision. And then I take what people say about you, because that informs, if everybody says, oh, he talks really quietly, then he probably talks really quietly, And then I take what I say about other people, and I make lists on that, so that then you're getting the facts, then, and then outside of that, I pretty much do the same as Dom. I try to someone said at drama school, it's like it's like dyeing a piece of cloth. If you just dye it once, you'll get this sort of solid, okay, it's there, but it's not that interesting. But if you dye it, leave it, and you get this multi-coloured, beautiful thing. So you just keep going back to the character. You keep doing little bits and bobs. So thinking about Lord of the Rings, I knew when we started that there was, like Harry Potter, there's a lot of characters, and you're only going to get tiny moments. So you have to make your moments mean something, and they have to have a real beat to them to move your character to the wherever he's going next. So I was lucky enough, in the house that I lived in New Zealand, there was a little office. So I covered one wall in paper, and I did all 3 movies on the piece of paper, and I marked it on a timeline of where I thought Pippin's major moments were, finding the Palantir, leaving Merry, upsetting Gandalf, all these things. And then it sort of made a little graph of where I thought Pippin was. Because of people's schedules, like Kate Blanchett or Ian Holm, we would jump to the end of the 3 movies, and we would do like the second last scene, and then we'd be back in the Shire in the first scene. So you had to kind of keep going, oh, wait a minute, what, And something else I learned at drama school was don't play the end. So with Pippin, I thought he's a super innocent character at the start, and then he has to become a sort of hero by the end. But don't play that he might become a hero at the end, because then you've given it away. He has to be this, little naive arsehole at the start that, you never think would light the beacons or do any of that. So, it was important to me to look at this graph and go, oh yeah, we're in the Prancing Pony tomorrow. So I've never met Gandalf. I've never met, So it was important to kind of, because it was a big story with only small beats for each character,
Yeah, because I remember the Lord of the Rings film came out, I think it was very close to the release of the first Potter film.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we were filming it, they released the trailer for it. And I remember going, wow, okay, that is a major thing. And I just remember the all the CGI effects and everything, what we could see to begin with. But in terms of, like, I suppose comparison between, like, the characters we played and your guys' characters, they were kind of like similar in terms of, like, and I've heard people say this to us before at, like, conventions and panels and stuff, in terms of, like, the similarities between them almost being like cheeky chappies, comic relief at times. Did that, and I know you mentioned it earlier about the having jokes and stuff like that on set. Did you guys get up to any of that type of stuff? Because people ask us all the time, what mischief did you get up to on set, or what pranks did you play? Did you get to do that? Or because you were, as you just said there, with the, the process in terms of, well, today I'm doing this and we're on this part of the graph type thing? Or did that wait until all the social side that you had outside of filming as well?
Depends where we're at in the filming, really. I mean, certainly in the Fellowship of the Ring, I think there was a vibe on set that certainly when Billy and I were in a scene, whether it was with the Fellowship or if it was just us, the vibe on set was like, okay, here come the light-hearted relief. These guys, we were always in a good mood. I don't think there was any real day, apart from being maybe exhausted, but even when we were exhausted, we were never really in a bad mood. I don't think Billy and I gained a reputation of being in any way difficult or complicated to work with on set. I think a little bit of that was probably to do with the characters. I mean, I remember thinking, to a certain extent, the audience have to take it seriously, and I have to take it seriously as an actor, what we are providing in that fellowship, which is a breath of just the audience's ability to take a breath, because you've got these very earnest speeches from Aragorn and Gandalf and Theoden and Galadriel and even Frodo and Sam, and Merry and Pippin, as Billy said, are going along with that vibe of like, right, where are we going? What are we doing? We want to help. How can we help? And it's important for the audience to think, that could be me. That would be me in that group. I would be the kind of, I want to do something, but I don't know how. So maybe my job is to cook the breakfast for everyone and have a toy sword fight with Boromir and maybe make Legolas laugh or make Aragorn feel like it's going to be okay. So I did think that we probably were keeping it light and airy on set, playing games and,
Yeah.
fucking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Dom, that is one difference between me and Dom, is Dom always likes to be doing something. He, like between takes or they're setting up another scene, he'll be like, oh, let's get the PlayStation set up, or let's get the behind the scenes camera in and we'll do a little scene or something. And I just go to sleep. I just, like as soon as there's a break, I'll just go to sleep. So it was great that Dom was there, because now the behind the scenes stuff, me and Dom were doing little sketches and all that. And I would say that was probably 90% Dom, saying, let's do something, because he's always on and doing something and wanting to learn and and I was quite happy, especially in night shoots. If they said, this is an hour to set this up, I'd just go back and just lie down, I'd be asleep. So it's good. It's good to have someone who isn't that, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll get involved. And so sometimes I would see Dom getting involved. Once him and Viggo Mortensen got into a sort of war with each other's trailers, where they would, do things to each other's trailers, and as a spectator, that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
They would paint each other's trailers or shrink wrap it or do something. It was good.
Yeah, he put Liverpool posters.
It's always night shoots when that happens
he
as
put
well.
Liverpool posters all over my trailer, and I think I put I hid little piles of shaving foam all over the inside of his trailer, and just.
I was enjoying that so much. I actually took the sofa out of my trailer and the TV and everything, so I was just outside watching what they would do to each other. It was great.
I slept a lot more. That's interesting that Billy said that he was more active. I slept more than I've probably ever done on a set, because between Billy and Elijah, who I probably spent more time with on set than anyone else, the two of them, their default setting when they weren't working was to go into their trailer, maybe put some music on and fall asleep.
Yeah.
So I would come in and be like, right, what are we doing? And they're like, we're falling asleep. And I'm like, okay, let's fall asleep. So I probably learned to fall asleep more than anything else. And interestingly, in terms of Potter, because we were all reading, we were all sharing music, we were all sharing movies and TV shows and stuff. I don't know who gave it to me, but someone gave me the first Harry Potter book. So during principal photography of Rings, I read Harry Potter 1, 2, and 3 in my trailer and was utterly charmed by it whilst listening to the Sundays, and just thought, oh, what a lovely, cozy, wonderful world to be in, So, yeah, that was one of my reading
And he asked Peter if he could get a little scar on his head, and Peter said, no, that's a no-go.
Well, last year, I know that you guys launched your podcast, The Friendship Onion, which I've had great joy listening to. Really good fun, and I really enjoy the facts which come out every so often. Like, I love the one when I randomly learned what a laser actually stood for something. I thought it was just a name. I didn't realize it was actually an abbreviation for.
Yeah, I think that when we started, I mean, you guys obviously have your podcast, and we just thought, what do we want it to be? And obviously we want people from Lord of the Rings coming in, and we've had Elijah and Sean and Richard Taylor from Weta, etc. But also we just wanted it that we could get people in that we found interesting, like the guy who makes lasers. We're like, who makes lasers? I want to talk to that guy. And we got Brian Greene in to talk about, because one day we're talking about quantum physics and string theory, and we thought, who can we get in that knows a bit more about this than we do? So we got Brian Greene in, and he's blew our mind. So it's just been a fun sort of, we want to learn about these things, so it's good. We're learning it as the listeners are as well.
I think that's what gives it its charm. That's what makes it so good. The listener is part of your conversation. What's being asked, but how did the name come about?
You were rolling it around for a while, weren't we?
Yeah, we did our first sort of episode in a friend's studio, And while we were doing that, it just came up. Dom, we were talking away during this episode, and we said,
That's
you know, we are friends, and we just want to learn about, and we said, unpeel it like an onion. And Dom said, yes, like a friendship onion. And that was it.
Yeah,
Voila.
yeah, that's exactly how it happened. It just, we like slightly surrealistic kind of imagery and stuff, something a bit silly and whimsical, and obviously an onion is something that is traditionally known to be consistently, you know, you can unpeel layers, and yeah, I think we might have wanted something that maybe gave the audience a clue that yes, of course we're going to be talking about Lord of the Rings and that's what's going to be happening, but more than anything else we're going to be talking about what it means to be friends with someone and how that friendship grows and changes and evolves, and you know, so that maybe friends can watch it together, and so that people who, you know, maybe make new friendships can make those new friendships whilst watching or listening to our podcast, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I remember listening to an episode, I think it was just before Christmas, and you were talking about people who obviously either fans of Lord of the Rings or listen to your podcast, and they'll get you mixed up, and we'll talk about something, what the other one said on an episode. How does it? I mean, I understand what that is like firsthand. How do you like correct people, or do you just play along and then just see what happens, or how does that happen when that happens with you?
Circumstantial, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
it's different every time, isn't it? Because, you know, if someone comes to me like super excited and saying, "Oh God, I love you so much. Lost is one of my favorite shows," then it's kind of painful for me to say, you know what, you've got the wrong one, you know. But 98% of the time I would do that. But if they're super excited, then I go, thank you very much, you know. I'll just let that go, and just hopefully, you know, they'll just have it as a nice memory, because memories aren't real anyway, Tom.
Exactly. It's interesting what people think is real and not. I mean, yeah, it's all circumstantial. I remember being on a plane, someone watching me a little bit on the plane, and then as we got up to get our bags, he came over to me and said, "Are you Billy Boyd?" And I said, "No." He said, "Yeah, you are." I said, "I'm not." He said, You are. Why are you being like that?" I said, I'm not Billy Boyd. You got me confused with someone else. I wasn't mean, I wasn't nasty, but, you know, he was so adamant and kind of thought that I was being, one of my favourite words, obstropulous.
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh.
But I was just trying to say, hey, man, you know, no, it's not me, you know. And then sometimes, like Billy said, you'll play along because it's their thing. If I'm going to be compared to anyone, I love the fact that I'm compared to Billy. You know, that's a great thing. If someone thinks that I'm Billy, it's fantastic. But,
Rather than Brad Pitt.
I mean, Brad Pitt would be great. But I think it's inevitable. I mean, you guys must know as well, the movies that we're known for and probably will always be known for the rest of our life are the Lord of the Rings. In those films, more than 60-70% of the time we're on screen together. So I compare it to this R2-D2 C3PO thing, where because they're always together invariably, people don't know the difference between the two of them, which one's Laurel, which one's Hardy, which one's R2-D2, which one's C3, because they're always referenced at the same time. Oh, Merry and Pippin, follow me. Merry and Pippin, come this way. And they're like, well, which one's which, you know? So it's fun, you know? It's a fun thing.
And you guys, are you twins or just brothers?
We are twins, yeah. He's 13 minutes
I
older
thought
than
you were
I am.
twins. Well,
Means
that's
a lot.
totally
Means a lot, that,
different.
doesn't it?
I mean, that's just like you guys are on the highest level of confusion, right? Because you're
Yeah, but
twins
that's-
already.
Yeah,
and
which is
then,
why I asked, yeah.
then
then
twins
you're known for
in a movie, and then a movie where you guys are always together in the scenes. You guys must be in the top level of humans that have ever been confused for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's why. Yeah.
So much so that when they did the 20-year Potter reunion, they actually got our names
Brilliant.
mixed up in the
titles, yeah.
the name
Did they
titles.
really?
Brilliant.
Yeah. It's been changed now,
That's
apparently.
incredible, isn't it?
But when I first saw it, I was like, Wow, that
Wow.
happened.
Do you guys have that twin thing? Because I
Hey-ho.
have this connection with my mum, and I've heard that obviously twins have this quite a lot. But I have this, I'm connected to my mum in a lot of ways, but a strange connection with my mum is that we tend to share the same physical ailments. So I'll send a message to my mum and say, "Hey mum, how you doing? Sorry I've not been in touch for a couple of days. I've had a sore throat." And my mum will be like, "I've had a sore throat for 2 days." Or, I'll say to my mum, "Oh, I've sprained my ankle or something." She said, "Oh, I tripped and sprained my ankle too." And my dad will now verify it, because for the longest time there was no witnesses there. My dad will go, "Yeah, that happened." There was last year sometime, I said to my mum and dad, I said, "This is really strange, but I'm giving myself electric shocks at the moment more than I've ever done in my life. Anything that I touch, I'm giving myself a little static electric shock." And my mum called me immediately and she was like, "I've just been telling your dad that for the last 2 or 3 days, I've been giving myself electric shocks." So do you guys have that? Do you guys have that strange physical, mental connection at times?
No, not
I
like
think
that.
so. Definitely not getting electric
on.
shocks.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
I was going to
That'd
say,
be
I think
great.
I always remember we did like a morning TV show once in the States, and they had this expert there, and he was like, "No, it's true though, isn't it?" Kind of like, not for us. We kind of just like ruined this whole segment that they had lined up.
The whole segment. Looking at different cards. What card is that? I don't know.
Yeah. You've literally, all you can see in the background is a director just trying to right. We need to go traffic now. We'll go to the traffic. We'll go to the weather. Whatever. I don't care.
That's brilliant.
But yeah, so we're I suppose we are maybe subject different to the rule of thumb really with that type of thing.
When you were saying that, like sometimes guys get you confused and that kind of thing, has that ever affected when it's come to choosing roles or roles that you've gone for? Like, have you walked into the audition room and you've both been in there?
No, but I have gone.
There was once I went for a movie and you got the part.
Really? What
Yeah,
was
I
it?
can't remember now.
Oh,
it was like
strange.
sort of sci-fi thing.
Right, not sure.
And I remember you saying, "Well, I'm doing this movie," and I said, "Oh, I went up for that, cheeky buggers."
You bastard.
You should only ask one of us to audition.
That's
otherwise,
true. I vaguely recollect, but it's a while ago, probably 15, 20 years ago, going into an audition with a casting director and them saying, "Oh, you don't have a Scottish accent?" And I said, "No, I'm from England." And I remember thinking, she thinks I'm Billy Boyd. She definitely thinks I'm Billy Boyd. So, but I remember that happening once. But I mean, in terms of castings, generally, certainly after Rings, I do remember thinking, I can't play a fantasy character next. I can't be any of these things that we're easily getting offered, like gnomes or pixies or elves or leprechauns or any kind of easy fantasy pick. I remember saying to my agent, I can't go into an audition or even go through the process of that. It has to be a contemporary character, because Merry and Pippin are so entrenched in a fantasy world, so I think you always have to be conscious of that.
So on your Twitter account, you've written that the location is Earth for now, and Dom, you've got in transit. Where do you guys want to be living next then?
I don't know.
You seem really quite settled.
I'm quite settled in Los Angeles. I like it. Like you say, you don't have the sun today. I was out this morning doing some stuff in the garden, and like you've got your top off, or I did. Hello there.
Yeah.
And like fixing a couple of things. I had to fix a wire, you see. And I was thinking, this is lovely, It's February, and it's nice and warm. As Dom says, I've got a son, and he's quite settled here. He's quite outdoorsy. He likes to surf. He likes to skateboard, and it's like if I take him back to Glasgow or Scotland, I think it would be quite a shock for him now. Although he did live his first 8 years of his life there, and but I think he's used to this now, so it'd just be different. So I feel quite settled here, and I don't get obsessed by the business or anything. In fact, a lot of time I forget. You're kind of doing your own thing, So I do actually. A lot of people like to bring Los Angeles down. I really like it. I think it's a lovely lifestyle, and and the weather is such a. I mean, it can make you happy just getting up and putting a pair of shorts on. You know, it's just, it really helps.
It's a great city. There's so much to do. Some of the greatest restaurant experiences in the world are to be had in Los Angeles. Like Billy said, certainly at this time of year, it's probably my favorite weather in LA because you do get sun, but it's not like splitting the rocks, 41, 42 degrees Celsius. You know, it's kind of like 26, 27. It's lovely. Billy's going snowboarding and skiing this weekend.
That's right.
If they felt like it, they could go snowboarding in the morning, drive to the ocean and go surfing in the afternoon. There's not that many places on the planet that you can do stuff like that with. Of course, like Billy said, it gets a bad rap because, you know, there can be an element of toxicity in the social aspect of Los Angeles and the schmoozing and the nonsense. But Billy and I don't do that. I mean, you know, I'm too old for that. I never really was that interested in that anyway. Young people coming to LA, getting burnt out, going partying 5 nights a week, seeing if they can meet the right producer or the right this and that. It's just not something that Billy and I do. I like Los Angeles as well. I've always been restless. It's probably part of my childhood. I moved every 3 years when I was a kid. It's, you know, I've lived in a ton of different countries. My brother seems to have had the same kind of mentality instilled in him as well. He studied German at school and then college. He moved to Germany, he moved to Austria, he moved to Costa Rica, he moved to Spain. He's now going to Saudi Arabia. You know, Billy and I have lived in a ton of different countries. I like jungles, I like animals, I like tropical adventures, I like dangerous animals, I like any animal that people don't like. I think they need more help and guidance and awareness and love than anything else. So I love Australia, I love Fiji, I love Costa Rica, I love Belize. I don't know, there might be a time in my life where I might look at my job and where I'm at in that particular job and think, okay, I'm not sure if it gets any better for me at 55, at 60, at 65. I'll go teach people how to scuba dive for 10 years and, you know, have a more simplistic life of being around animals and having fun.
Unwinding, I guess, as it is anything outdoorsy, night or day. I think I can't think of anywhere else you'd rather be than seeing little, like even just like when last year I planted loads of seeds just to see what came out, and they're all ones which were made for encouraging bees to the area, and it was amazing how many turned up. It was as if one came one day, went away, told his mates, and then they all came back. Like,
you know, Billy and I learned to surf together in New Zealand, and we've surfed quite a few places around the world, and I have these amazing, vivid, beautiful, precious memories of surfing in Hawaii with Bills, or surfing in Mexico with Bills, or surfing around the world, and you're in nature, you're in the ocean, you know, there's kelp going around your feet, or maybe there's a sea lion in the distance, or a dolphin comes over to say hello, or a pelican swoops down, and there's something so simplistic and necessary for the human experience to connect with that thing, and it's joyful. You know, we wouldn't be catching a wave, we'd be waiting for a wave to come in. Suddenly a pelican would fly past, and, you know, Billy and I and our friends would be like, oh, look at that, that's amazing. Why does that fill you with joy? It's because we are nature, we're connected to nature, and we move away from it so easily, and when you reconnect with it, it's a blissful experience, you know.
Our podcast is called Normal Not Normal, so what does the word normal mean to you?
Do you know, I was thinking about this before we came on, and I just saw a quote from someone, and I've forgotten his name. Dom will help me here. So you guys are doing a travel show, but probably our favourite travel show, and the guy just passed away, well, a couple of years ago now.
Oh, Anthony Bourdain,
who's I saw this quote where he was talking to someone and said most people in the world are good, you know, they're good people, they just want to do their work, look after their kids, you know, get up every morning and put on a clean shirt and just have a life, you know. And I think that's kind of, for me, is normal. You know, growing up in Glasgow and knowing so many great people there. And one thing about Los Angeles that is a kind of thing that you have to watch is everybody is always trying to keep up with the Joneses, you know. I need a bigger house, I need a better car, I need a, and you've got to forget about that. You know, that stuff is not important. You know, I think normal is, you know, we want to have a nice time. You know, we want people around us to have a good time, and I think most people are like that. You know, it's the nature thing. It's if we can just get in touch with nature and just kind of make sure everybody's trying to have a good time, then that, you know, that feels normal. And I think Anthony Bourdain, the amount of travelling he did, he kind of hit something on the head there, you know.
Yeah. Someone asked me the other day on this Q&A that I do on Instagram, sometimes, you know, what makes you happy? And I said, you know, watching my friends be successful and seeing seeds that I plant grow, which is interesting that you said that thing, James. You know, I planted a couple of things last year that I knew wouldn't appear for somewhere between 9 months to 12 months. And seeing that happen, seeing the little shoots come up, and, you know, a perfect day for me was another question. And the perfect day for me is relatively normal. You know, Premier League happens very early in the morning in LA. So I might be up at 4:30, 5 in the morning to watch Manchester United. If Manchester United win, then the sun has come out. If I go into my garden and just simply potter, which is an interesting word for you guys, you know, just potter around, not necessarily do a huge amount, a little bit of weeding, a little bit of watering of a plant that might need a little bit of extra stuff, cut off a couple of dead leaves here and there, potter around, maybe go to a new place for lunch. You know, I like the days now that just kind of flow in a nice kind of improvisational way, but that there's nothing hysterical, there's no crazy peaks and troughs about them. You're just kind of cruising. That's another word that I like. In Hawaii, you talk about that all the time, you know. How's your day? Oh, I'm just cruising, which just kind of means not really doing anything in particular, just kind of doing my thing. That's what normal feels like to me.
Yeah, and people kind of look down in that sometimes, don't they? And they shouldn't. You know, just you talking about sitting watching TV on your sofa. There's something lovely about that, you know.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of where the concept came up to us from. Like, what is normal? Like, well, I'm not doing things normally. It's like, well, who are you comparing yourself to? You can only compare yourself to yourself. And as you say, it's funny as you said that, Billy, about the whole keeping up with the Joneses thing. That some people, not necessarily just in LA, but all over the place, can kind of get with that. But yeah, you're right, Dan. Like, as you say, if you can just cruising a bit, it's amazing how much further they can go.
Yeah. What age were you guys when you did Potter?
So we were 14 when we were cast.
Oh wow! So you guys were young.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I suppose
So,
that's where the normal thing comes from. Is you guys have pretty much only known that life. So
So it was always funny. Like we'd always say to
yeah,
our
well,
pals,
like Oliver said, we're always asked what, like, we didn't have a normal childhood growing up, but we were like, well, I bet your normal was completely different to your schoolmates' normal kind
but
of thing.
it's only
So
the normal that you
was-
have, because both
Exactly.
my parents had passed away when I was 15, but to me that's normal. You know, to most people, you know, they watch their parents get older and you know, maybe less secure and you know, becoming old people, you know. And I never had that, but to me that's normal. My parents are frozen as these parents of a 15-year-old, so to me that's normal. And I find it hard to try and get my head around people talking about their parents getting older, and you know, so it's normal for you.
Yeah, and also, you know, some of the more bizarre experiences that Billy and I have shared together, I always think is harder to handle for the people around you, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this too. You know, when we were doing some of our initial premieres in Leicester Square or in Times Square or, you know, wherever we happened to be, we would have like an initial briefing. You know, they'd kind of say, okay, guys, you know, they're going to line up the cars and you're going to go first and you next. And then, you know, there's going to be Elijah and Liv and stuff like that. And you're going to get there. There'll be a red carpet. Wave to some people, sign some stuff if you want. Give yourself half an hour. Then there's going to be photos. Then you're all going to get together as a group. So you know all that. You've been briefed and you're consistently briefed. But you don't feel the need to tell your friends or maybe your significant other or your pals or your parents about it. So you get out the car knowing this stuff and also having the experience of it happen before. So you're like, oh yeah, great. Thousands of people screaming your name and flash photography and it's crazy. I remember looking around at my parents and my friends and my brother and thinking, wow, they're really having an out-of-body experience. But for us, it's amazing what you get used to, So it's just whatever you're used to. If you're a clown, people must think, well, that's a crazy job. That's your job. And you just think, well, my job is falling out of a car that demolishes and someone putting a custard pie in my face. You just get used to it, right?
But what a job. Anyway,
that was a good jump.
So
to
But we're clowns. I was trying to bring clowns in.
So first of all, what is your favourite book?
American Psycho.
Autobiography of a yogi.
There was a juxtaposition.
I was going to say.
The opposite.
Brilliant.
I thought you were going to say Bill Bryson.
I've not finished that one yet.
What is your favourite food?
Fruit.
Spicy Thai soup.
Your favourite film?
Apocalypse Now.
Gregory's Girl.
Favourite song?
Something by the Beatles.
God.
You've got to be fast. We can't wait till 3 a.m. James doesn't have the time.
In my life by the Beatles.
Oh, 2 Beatles.
And funny, if you have a favourite quote.
To thine own self be true.
And it could literally be from a film or a philosopher. It doesn't really, like, it could be from The Simpsons or it could be
Too
from
late, James.
Freud.
I just gave you
really...
Shakespeare. Just take it. To
Sorry,
thine
I'll
own
take that.
self be true.
Lovely stuff. Mine is what matters most is how well we walk through fire.
Was that you that made that one up?
Charles Bukowski.
Ooh.
Very
I
good.
like quick fire questions.
I like
Good.
him too. I like the impulsiveness of that. That was wicked.
Brilliant. Well, Chaz, thank you so much for taking the time out of everything today and letting us pick your brains about some stuff. Really appreciate it.
It was great spending time with you both, and hopefully, if we get a chance to be over in the British Isles sometime soon, maybe we can all have a pint in a pub and share League of Legends stories.
Oh, that's one thing I miss over
Definitely.
here. It's just a normal pub and just meeting up for an afternoon pint. I could go that right now, Dom.
No, we've got to work.
Yeah, I've got to do some work. That's right. No, it's lovely to speak to you guys. I hope the podcast continues to be a success. It's brilliant. And I know that you guys are doing a travel show. Can't wait to see it. It looks brilliant.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we just wrapped on the first season, which was good fun. So we were actually, funny enough, talking about skiing. We were skiing in Austria, and I've never done it before. Wow, and I think 35 is too old to start. You're just
It's
like
not.
looking at the floor going, I'm going too quick.
I'd never skied till we got to New Zealand, so I was 32 when we did it. And very quick story: we went skiing. Me, him, Dom there,
Hi.
Orlando Bloom, who can ski like a god, of course, and a few other people.
Because he's been skiing quite a bit.
He's been skiing since he was a child. And Dom and I have never skied before or snowboard, so we went snowboarding. Dom fell hard on his arse.
Yeah, broke my arse.
Really, really hard. And the next day, we were going snowboarding again, and we're knocking on his door. Dom's just shouting, no, I'm not going. Just go. And we got the cleaner to come up and open his door, and we ran in to get him out, but he wouldn't go.
No, I wouldn't go. Well, Ollie said, these guys were knocking on the door. Come on, come out. I was like, no, I'm not going. I can barely walk. And then Ollie was like, but my snowboard's in your room. I'll go get it. And it was. I remember having this sinking feeling. I looked around and I was like, oh, shit, it is in there. I can't. He went, right. We'll be all right, mate. He went, all right, we'll be back in 5 minutes, all right, and we'll see where we're at. So I was like, right, okay. And I set an alarm for 4 minutes, and then I grabbed his snowboard and I put it by put it by the hotel door, so that they couldn't rouse me.
But you really hurt your ass.
your tailbone, the kind of the very bottom of your spine.
Yeah.
I just jolted that, and it was a horrible sensation. And I was like, I'm done for the day. And then I woke up the next day and it was worse. I was like, there's absolutely no way I was waddling like a duck.
I don't think Elijah had ever been before as well. And you know that little lift thing that you get, and you put the thing between your legs and it pulls you up, and it's really hard to get on.
Yeah.
And even harder with a snowboard. Yeah. And we tried about 4 or 5 times. None of us could get on it. And Elijah ended up just grabbing it and lying on his back and just getting pulled up on his back.
I'm the ring bearer.
Is this the way to Mordor?
So guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Tons of
Really,
fun.
really
It's great
enjoyed
chatting
it.
with you
Great
guys.
fun. See you later, guys.
I love doing that. That was
so
really,
much
really
fun.
great. Especially seeing their studio as well. It's like a very
It's not a backdrop.
well put
I mean,
together on you. It's a good backdrop, isn't it? We could probably do that here.
very much.
Well,
I mean,
no,
we've
maybe not quite like that.
we've met those guys in passing, but never really had a decent chat with them. And I'm quite a big Lord of the Rings fan, so it was really cool. You know, and you hope people are as nice in real life. And I know we've said this in quite a few guys that we've spoken to on this show, but it was really nice, and we can't thank them enough for telling us all about their experiences filming that. And I was fascinated as well about, obviously, I forgot how they'd filmed it. They filmed the 3 movies in one go, essentially, like sporadically all over the place, and they needed to remember the character arc, as it were. So that was really cool, learning all that. And their show is a lot of fun, so give the Friendship Onion a little listen. Very, very good. And I love the random, as you probably are aware, guys, I love random facts, and their show definitely has some of them in.
Yeah. And also as well, going back to the other stuff they were talking about, how like obviously they get people mix them up, and obviously, and also as well, like 'cause people ask us about pranks, but it was nice hearing that there was a bit of a prank war going on, not necessarily with Billy, but with Dom and Vigo as well. Like that, obviously, just shows as well that sometimes you can take work as good as you find it, and just make the best of whatever it is you're getting up to. But also, I love the idea as well how they both use nature as a way to decompress and just enjoy their surroundings.
Mm-hmm. It's funny now looking back, but I remember when the Lord of the Rings were coming out at the cinema and the Potters were coming out at the cinema, I can remember the press tried to make it you're either in one camp or the other. And I always found that really bizarre, because as a Potter crew, cast and everything, we were generally like excited to see the upcoming Lord of the Rings, and it's quite cool to learn that they were the same way with the Potters as well. I think it was a mutual admiration. So it's, looking back now, it's quite funny that
Likelihood is if you like one, you're going to be intrigued, or at least very interested in seeing the other.
But like Oliver said, really great people. Billy, Dom, thank you so much for joining us. And guys, we really do hope that you enjoyed that chat with them. It was a lot of fun. And let me segue into my little Did You Knows this week. So I did allude to it when I was speaking to them, that in their show, I actually learned what laser means. I'm assuming that's what a laser sounds like.
Doesn't mean that though, does it?
No. I just assumed it was a word. I didn't realise it meant something. So it actually stands for light amplification by the stimulated emission of radiation. Another random fact for you from Lord of the Rings. A very famous quote comes from Lord of the Rings, and people say this all the time. You see it if you go into someone's house, there's some people have this written on. Actually, I was in a town recently and actually got it written on the floor there. And that was the saying, "Not all that wonder are lost." That comes from Lord of the Rings.
Very good. Good old Tolkien.
Another one, I know you know this because every Brummie seems to know this. The Two Towers.
Two Towers.
The idea comes from two towers which were in the Midlands at the time.
Yeah.
There we are. You can actually hike Mount Doom in New Zealand. I have done this. I know you've done this, Oliver, and I'm still angry for you for this. So let me fill you in on the story. Oliver isn't as into hiking as myself or my friend. I think this is fair because we go on holidays, and my pal and I go away, right? So
we didn't have a car or anything like that to get around, and it's a one-way walk. I'm going to set my stall out first. It was a one-way walk. I was on my honeymoon, and I'd already just come off 10 days in Fiji, just filling my face. Go.
Okay. As we were heading down to New Zealand, Oliver said to my pal and I, "Right, you need to get a guide for this hike because you may get lost. You're not sure if you could get all the way, so it's best to get a guide." So, okay. 6 months before this, he and I had been hiking in Yellowstone and Yosemite without a guide, just with a map, tent, backpack, done in the wilderness. So when we get to, so we meet said guide and group of 10 other people. We then get to the trail, and I would say the yellow brick road in The Wizard of Oz was better hidden than this trail. Like, you could not miss it. And the problem when you're with a group, you've got to wait for the group. And we're relatively fit guys, so we were always going ahead, sitting down and waiting. Going ahead, sitting down, waiting. What we probably could have done in 2 hours took 5. So just watch out for this one next time.
Just coming up, just catching in. Don't go cheap like that. We bought our own we rented our own individual guide who brought a lunch for us and everything like that. Literally cooked it at the side, and we were up, down, and out in 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And he was giving us and he was teaching us all the tradition of the area, like how it's like a Polynesian type thing. But like in Moana, for example, the Disney film, and there's the bit at the end, where the I forget the name of it now. Takara, is it the volcanic lady who's throwing stuff at Maui at the end? But how it lies down and forms an island and a volcano. Before all that came out, he was explaining how that's how they believe, how volcanoes can only move once, they believe. So they try and move as close to someone as to another one who they love, and that's it. And they'd move at night to do it. So I'd learn all this on the way. You didn't get that on your tour guide, did you?
I love that. Remember that Pixar short with the volcanoes?
God, sad that.
That's amazing. It's so good.
It's proper sad.
So good. Right. And then just because I like throwing random did you knows in here. Did you know? Right. You're not going to know where this comes from. Did you know in Pokemon, the gotta catch 'em all ethos has a backstory? So the idea about collecting animals in Pokemon came from his love from being in the garden as a child. And as a boy, the creator Satoshi, and he would spend hours finding and collecting bugs and insects. In fact, he spent so much time doing it, his friends called him Dr. Bug. He eventually wanted to become a bug scientist, but we're just glad he invented a video game instead, aren't we?
I bet he is as well.
There you go. I bet you didn't realise we were going to end up on Pokemon there.
No, anyway, guys, that just shows there's no normal way to finish this. But guys, thank you so much for joining us this week. And as we said earlier, thanks once again to our big guests, Billy and Dom.
Yes, thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. It was, like I said, really good fun to chat to Billy and Dom. We really do hope you guys enjoyed it. My name's James Phelps.
He is. My name's Oliver Phelps. And don't forget, all our other episodes are still backdated if you want to go in to listen to them or to quote what we just heard from, catch them all.
Guys, thank you very much for everybody listening this week. If you've enjoyed what you've been listening to or watching, please like, review, subscribe. Thank you so much for everybody listening around the world. Honestly, it really does make our week hearing where everybody's listening to. That it's your bit of escapism at times. So thank you so much for letting us be a part of your week. I'm James Phelps.
I'm Oliver Phelps. Cheerio.
Slam dunk, are you ready?